Now that things are opening up and admissions are taking place, I thought why not do a video on the procedure for applying for PhD. Hi, this is Atya here. Welcome to PhDpreneur, where we discuss PhD, personal finance and mindset. Today we are going to discuss an important topic as far as PhD admissions are concerned, and that is how to get admission for PhDs. I'm sure some of you might be having any doubts, questions related to what are the different steps involved in getting admission for PhD. So I'm here to simplify all that and give a step-by-step guide on how to approach the matter. Please excuse my voice as I have cold. So without further ado, let's begin with today's video. So the first step is identifying research area. Which area are you more interested in? If I give an example of my field, life sciences, there are several things which come under the umbrella of life sciences, like neurosciences is there, genomics is there, environment is there. In that also there is dry lab work, where most of the work is computational work, and wet lab work. So first step is to identify where your research interest lies. How do you identify your research interest? Now if you have done your masters and trying to get admission for PhD, I suggest taking some kind of internship or project in between to understand what exactly happens in the job market or what are the current trends, because when you make decisions solely based on what has been studied at masters or what has been studied in your curriculum, then that actually does not reflect what is the current research trend. So working in a lab or working in a place where you are exposed to different research trends, even for teaching for that matter, that helps more in understanding which are the trends which are picking up and which are the areas you could be potentially interested in. Sometimes you feel you are interested in one thing only to discover that you end up liking something else. So this confusion is averted when some kind of conference you attend or some internship. After finalizing the research area, the next thing you want to look at is location. Sometimes some students prefer to work in their hometown. Okay, so that is one, whether it should be in your home state or hometown or pan-India. You are ready to go anywhere in India. For example, at the time of my PhD admission, I had selected my state and two other neighboring states where I felt I would be more comfortable with respect to culture and with respect to optimum mental health. That is a call that you have to take. Understanding, shortlisting the location is the second step. Also, shortlisting institutes. Sometimes you have a preference. If you are a CSIR fellow or UGC fellow, then some of the students may have the intention of working in CSIR labs. So that is also important. So whether you want to work in a university or institute or what kind of lab, if it is wet lab work, and even if it is dry lab work, so you will have one supervisor. So that would be associating with one lab, even if you do work at home. The next step is selecting supervisor. The most critical step out of all, and I will explain why. You take admission anywhere, even in a top ranking institute. You take admission in the institute which has highest level of instrumentation or facilities with respect to your work. But if the supervisor is not good, then everything gets nullified. Okay, so this is the most important step. So you have identified this research area, you have identified the location. Next step, cold emailing to all the people from that field. Okay, so say suppose you have interest in neurosciences. So in neurosciences, in that particular institute, you will have several supervisors who would be working in that field. So you can just put an email saying that you are so and so, and giving your introduction and and you say that you can attach your resume, put an email saying that you are interested in working with that person. After the cold emailing step, wherever you get response, I suggest meeting in person after the email step is done. And sometimes what happens when you put emails, people don't reply. Okay, typically students send around 80 to 100 emails to different supervisors asking them if any kind of position is vacant. Okay, so these are some of the things that need to be considered while selecting the supervisor. So now you have selected the location, you have selected the research area and supervisor. What is the next step? Usually I have seen that PhD admissions take place twice in a year in an institute. One is around November, December, and the second round is in April, May, June. So you need to keep a tab on what are the admission dates or when the rounds are going on. Keeping scanned copies of all the documents, having scanned passport size photos, that helps. And I have seen that sometimes the scanned copies are not very clear. So instead of scanning it with a mobile, I would suggest scanning it from a scanner. It gives better clarity. And while applying also, it is better not to wait for the last minute, because I have seen from my experience that last 2-3 days of application, sometimes the servers go down or there is an internet connection or anything of that sort. This time is to start applying 1 week after the application date is announced to avoid any kind of glitches. The next step is interview. Now interview is the scheduling of interviews, and the admission process is slightly different for those who are having some kind of fellowship or those who are not having some kind of fellowship. I have seen that students who don't have any kind of fellowship, whether it is UGC, CSIR or any other fellowship, I have seen that they have to give an entrance and followed by the interview. Okay, those who have fellowship, for them the interview is direct without any entrance exam. So this is what I have seen. The procedure will differ from institute to institute, university to university, but majorly these are the things that I have observed. And in entrance exam, usually the basics are questions. It is not complicated. There is no need to worry, but these are some of the things that you might want to keep in mind. Now that we have covered all the 5 steps of PhD admission, I would like to leave you with a bonus tip and the mistake that most of the PhD students make when it comes to PhD admissions. Trying to select a potential institute or supervisor based on its ranking, and I will explain why it is not a good idea. I will make a separate video on ranking of institutes, but for now, whenever usually PhD institutes are concerned, usually it is university or a standalone institute where PhD is not the only program which is going on. There are undergraduate program also, there are PG programs also. So when a ranking is given, there are several factors which affect all these different disciplines and all that is considered, which may not be relevant to a PhD scholar. So as a PhD student, most of all you will be restricted to one lab. That would be your primary lab. Even if instrumentation is kept in a different place or in different other labs, you will be operating primarily from one lab because your supervisor will be from one lab. This same goes to a person who is interested in dry lab work. So how is the culture over there and instrumentation over there? That is more important than the institute ranking or the university ranking, because these rankings are not all given solely based on the research potential. Okay, so this is one of the things that I wish to highlight and caution prospective PhD students, because rankings can be a good place for start. Do not negate a university, institute or a lab just because it has low ranking. In one of the points I mentioned to attend conferences or to attend internship. If you are not able to find a particular conference or a particular place, even attending any kind of other conference or other workshop as far as your field is concerned, that is also fine. The intention is to get maximum exposure before taking the decision, because usually I've seen that PhDs on an average it takes around 4 to 5 years. It is possible to finish PhD before that, and sometimes it gets delayed also, but on an average 4 to 5 years is not a short span of time. So you want to take this decision wisely. And if I consider all these steps, selecting the supervisor is the most critical of all the steps. Rest remains a formality. I've made 2 videos based on this topic alone on my channel, so you might want to have a look. That's it for today. If you are a prospective PhD student, then let me know your question or query. If you are pursuing PhD or have already got your PhD degree, then tell us in the comments what helped you most in getting admission for PhD. I think we'll wind up.